Right, on to the next, because now I'm going to go from what someone I hate view to someone I actually love view, but I have my own struggle with, because then he says things that I just... Look, here's the problem with Kobe. He's a bit of a mimbo, isn't he? Like, he is beautiful. He is cool. He has a really nice vibe. He has some good game knowledge. He has some good things. He's got a lot of history. He's definitely fun on a cast, but he definitely says some brain dead stuff every now and then. That's, you can't have everything, Kobe. I don't look great, but I've just got all the brains and wit, haven't I? God was giving out different portions to different people, or before the game, we all leveled up our character differently, didn't we? You didn't choose to put a lot into intelligence or whatever. Like, that's just the way it goes. I'm just going to keep it real, mate, because I put all my points into keeping it real, didn't I? It's my problem. It's my strength and my weakness. So I'm going to say this, right? Kobe did a tweet where when it came to doing that bracket draw, obviously people realised, because this is how you know, Monty, they never think ahead. It's taken them till the bracket draw was done to go, wait a minute, but what happens if, like, NA plays NA? You think that beforehand, mate. You don't need it to happen before you can say it. So obviously now people are like, oh, it's going to suck though. What if, like, Europe's teams play each other in the lower bracket and then NA's teams play each other in the lower bracket? And we already saw those matchups, right? One, seeing the matchup, you've got to get over this NA and fucking League of Legends fans. Seeing the same matchup is not a bad thing if it happens just in the course of the tournament. You can't just have Vince McMahon come out like, whoa, we're not having fucking The Undertaker versus The Rock again. I'm inserting a brand new guy. Like, no, if that's what's going on, that's what's going on. You're not fucking wrestling, mate. You can't just come in like that. You can't have someone come in with a chair and just fucking take over the game, can you?
As much as people complain about this shit too, the reality is that the casual fans are much more likely to tune in for T1 versus Gen G again, because they know that matchup and they have certain expectation, and there's a hype and prestige that comes up with that matchup. Is it not the best for LCK potentially that the last 3 finals have all been T1 versus Gen G? Yeah, because if a new team comes in, because we haven't had a mix-up and maybe people aren't as familiar with some of the other teams, like I imagine that if KT had made the finals, that final would have had lower viewership. And if KT had been at MSI, those matches would have had lower viewership, at least for now, because it takes time to build it up. But if you're Riot, you want Gen G versus T1 because that's going to drive enormous viewership.
Yes. Like, so here's the point, because I didn't say the tweet here. Kobe did a tweet where he goes, what if we all agree to just redraw the bracket with the rule teams from the same region can't be on the same side of the bracket? Mix it up for fun. Deal? Now, fair enough, he did phrase it as like, mix it up for fun. Deal? Just a shower thought, I'm just off the freeze pipe. Tell you what, crazy idea. What if you... But here's the problem with that, Kobe, as like I'm going to actually legitimately analyze it. Here's the problem with that. You're not in WWE. The reason that the teams go inside the bracket is because there's an element of random draw. That's why you do a draw, you fuck. That's why you do the draw. Now, that means sometimes you're going to get a bomb one like this that you don't like. Sometimes you're going to get the best draw ever, by the way. And so the point is, this is the issue. Like, I've always hated, by the way, the fact they do it at Worlds. Like, you can't be in the same group, right? One, if you want to be practical, guys, you are aware that if real seeding was done for MSI and Worlds, they could never all be in the same group from NA because you'd all be the bottom fucking seeds. So you wouldn't all be there, would you? One would be playing number 1, one would be playing number 2, one would be playing number 3. You'd all be in different groups anyway. 2, if you actually were diverse, Monty, and there was an NA team 4th and an NA team 8th and an NA team 12th, then it'd be fine to be in the same group. It wouldn't be the end of the world. If anything, when you say that line, like, it's a domestic matchup, then you're complaining about lack of international tournaments, not how this tournament is seeded and done. And also, I'm just going to throw this out there. When you say a line like that and you're in a Riot game and you're in a game where they already do only let 4 teams from LCK go, even if the 5th team, which by the way would have been DRX if things had gone differently, could win Worlds. Meanwhile, like the second best NA team couldn't even win Worlds. We're already in a world where we essentially tell people, oh, if you play for the 5th best Korean team, you're just not that good, mate. You don't get a World Championship. Oh, you play in the 3rd best NA team. Welcome to the World Championship. You're one of the best players in the world. And they still do it, Monty. They still say 16 best teams in the world.
We just came off a Worlds where the 4th seed from Korea.
Exactly. So it proved it, didn't it? It proved it, mate. And so then the other thing to me is this, right? When you have that world already, understand you've already fucked the ecosystem. Don't then further make it like it's your birthday party. And you're like, I want a pink pony though, Mum, not a purple one though. Like, you sound so mad entitled at the idea of like, right, I just make the bracket how I want it. No, bro, the teams playing the matches and the results determine who is available within the probability to get the slot, and then random aspects to it. Here's one reason I'm with Kobe though. I don't like randomization, Monty, because remember, the way the seeding is done for this tournament treats fucking Mad Lions like they are fucking
better than
JDG and better than T1. And also they treat BLG like they're T1 as well. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing's, it's always off when you do that, because that's why you can always get really, sometimes, I mean, these are fine brackets. That's the other thing I can't handle, by the way. I'll just say it right now. I get that it's going to suck if you have the all-regional lower bracket temporarily. Won't suck for me. I want those teams out the way anyway to get the good one. But the actual up-round matches, they're good. This is even like a nice bracket.
So I think the complaint here, and I understand this. So I want to couch this. I think Kobe is just being cheeky and joking.
Oh, yes, he's not being serious.
We all wish that this had been drawn differently, but this is basically the worst possible bracket that probably could have been drawn, unfortunately. So we just have to live with that. I don't think it's a big flaw within the format. An idea that's been floated that I agree with is that you can create a system where teams from the same region can't go in the same side of the bracket, which obviously severely limits the potential matchups that could occur. But in a double elimination format, you can mess with the upper bracket a little bit more because you always have the leeway of the lower bracket than you could in a just a single elimination tournament. So I wouldn't be bothered if at MSI they said teams from the same region can't be in the same side of the bracket. And you draw basically, I think, one team and you would know the entire rest of the bracket at that point in time. So it would be a little less random, but at the same time, we'd probably end up with more compelling international matchups. I think the problem here is that we end up with, if all the favorites win, that is Gen G, T1, BLG, and JDG, we end up in the upper brackets with rematches of the LCK and LPL finals. We end up in the lower bracket with a rematch of the LCS finals, and we end up with a rematch of the first, like the lower bracket match between G2 and Mad Lions. Now, a lot of these matches were very exciting, very close matches, and we get to see them first off on a different patch, guys. You can't treat this as though this is going to be the same matchup, because most of these teams skipped multiple patches to get to MSI, and we haven't even seen Gen G, Mad Lions, Cloud9, or JDG on this patch. Right? And some of them were playing playoffs on like 13-5, 13-6. We're on 13-8 right now. So there are pretty big differences in the matchups that we're going to see. And I don't really care. Like, I will gladly watch another match between Gen G and T1. I wish I got to see more of them in my life. But at the same time, I think the argument is like, you know, there's a real possibility that we don't see an NA versus EU best of 5, which is definitely something that this format was trying to solve. But them's the breaks, unfortunately. That's just how it shakes out sometimes. And the format is still very good. And the later stages of this tournament are still going to be really fun.
Sure.
And also, that's accounting for the fact that people are bemoaning this now, but all it takes is one upset, and then this entire thing shakes out way different. Right?
That's also the dumbest part about it, isn't it? If one upset happens, like you say, on either side of the bracket, both sets of matches don't happen. You don't get China versus China. You don't get Korea versus Korea. You don't get you versus you, and you don't get any versus any. So that's why I'm saying you let the players decide who plays you. Kobe's talking like they have to play each other, like, or in this case, he would make it so they can't. The reason it's also, like Kobe, why you don't do that is because you've already got scoffed enough seeding. Look, I know this isn't very likely, but remember, when you create a format with seeding, you cannot do things like, well, at the moment, Monte, Korean teams are pretty good, so this seeding would be a good. No, it's supposed to be agnostic to the regions. It's good seeding is just who is the best. Well, obviously, in a tournament, the whole point of being number 1 seed is to play number 16, or in this case, number 8. Well, what if there was a world, it doesn't exist now, but what if there was a world where the 2 Korean teams were the number 1 and number 8 teams in the world in this tournament? That means the number 1 team just gets a harder opponent.
Yeah.
They'd have to just play the 7th best team instead of the 1st. So now that the 2nd best team gets the better game. You know what I mean? You see what I mean about how when you tweak one thing, it's some butterfly effect shit. And also, like you've just nailed there, Kobe's doing it because his eyes are telling him, but I don't want that exact matchup again. You have to make this point before the tournament happens, when it's totally no one knows. Because remember, here's the other reason that's such a worthless point. Because what if Golden Guardians didn't make it and PSG Talon did?
Yep.
Then it wouldn't even be a fucking issue, would it? So like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
It would still be an issue in that we would have semis that are T1, Gen G, and JDG, BLG, and potentially,
I've nailed it, Monty. I've nailed what the problem is. Here's the real problem, and no one's saying it. The problem isn't MSI 2023. The problem is the last few worlds have unfortunately yielded the China versus China brackets and the LCK versus LCK. Too many times we've accidentally got those brackets. And because it's happened, everyone was saying it you'll have seen it on Reddit. There's a mad thing where like Caps has never faced an LPL team if an LCK team was available. Chovy has never faced a fucking non-Korean mid laner in a playoff series, even though these guys have all been to a whole bunch of worlds at the last 3-4, like I get as to why like that sucks, but that's just random. That's what I always point this out. People don't get this. The reason random seeding sucks is you can get the best possible seeding. It's random, contains every pattern. You can also get the worst possible seeding. I just want real seeding or something approaching it. Like I said this years ago, you don't have to really do it, Monty, because obviously the hardest thing would be like, who gets to be number one, LPL or LCK. You make more tiers. Instead of having 2 groups, make it like 4. If you just had it like, look, number one from both LPL and LCK, they're always number one. That'd again be vaguely more reasonable. You know what I mean? So I have a problem in general with that whole seeding thing, because that's where all this comes from. It's not what the matchup at the end is. That's the end of the process.
Yeah, like I said, I think there are ways that you could do it by making it so that regions can't be in the same side of the bracket if your goal is to create like a more interesting first round of the tournament. I mean, the real problem here is this.
Why is that your goal, though? Bro, we've only just, Monty, got a second good actual tournament that isn't Korea.
I don't care that much.
You know what I mean? Like,
I don't care that much because I think this draw was an aberration and is unlikely to be repeated. It was just unlucky. But I still think I think it's a minor thing. I think the format is still good. This could have shaken out in a variety of different ways that would have been acceptable to people. I mean, really what people wanted.
And the low bracket will take care of it. That's what they're forgetting, Monty. They're looking at this. This is why you know it's Euro and Western-centric, Monty. They're looking at, like you had said, they're already predicting all the Western teams lose. So they're already like, it's going to suck when C9. No, bro. After that, though, it doesn't matter. Like, here's the one that I don't even get what you even mentioned earlier as a potential downside. Why is it a problem that in the upper semi-finals, JDG and BLG could play, and Gen G and T, they're the 4 best teams in the tournament? And, spoiler, they're going to go in the lower bracket, half of them, and it's going to mix up. Yep. They're going to flip the bracket. So, if you know, you know what's sick about that? People don't know what double elim is still. They don't know the second round flips. So you don't always have it. This only in this particular case. And by the way, it's not like we're repeating from this tournament. We're just repeating from domestic. That can happen. And and as you say, it's only going to happen because you're bad. Oh, the 2 best. Basically, I'll reframe what he said. Let's change the format, Monty, so that if NA is the worst, they can't play each other in a low match.
Right.
What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like,
here's that's what I was going to say. Here's what people are actually mad about. Because what they wanted was some like Golden Guardians versus Mad Lions and C9 versus G2 shit where a Western team would advance into the upper bracket semifinals. So they're mad that isn't a guaranteed result. In terms of competitiveness, guys, in terms of competitiveness and advancing the 4 best teams from this tournament to the next round of the tournament, which is what a tournament is designed to do, this is a great bracket. This is a great bracket at doing that, right? In fact, you could say that Riot, had they seeded this according to team strength. Think about that. Think if they had seeded this according to team strength and you actually had them ranked 1 through 8, could you have come up with potentially a better bracket than this one?
This is a plausible bracket.
It's a plausible bracket if you rank the teams 1 through 8.
Dude, JDG would play BLG. I would have had them 4th and JDG first.
Think about it. Yeah. You have Gen G and JDG. So by the way, Riot did say that Gen G and JDG had to be on opposite sides of the bracket, which was great. Yeah,
then the number 1 seeds, like I said, you can have that tier. That's a tier, like I said. Yeah.
Yep.
Do that.
And so then they put Cloud9 and Mad Lions into the tier 2 and everyone else into the tier 3. Now, you would have also said that T1 and BLG should be on opposite sides of the bracket, which they ended up being because of that seeding system. So they did kind of soft seed the teams. But in terms of making it so that there are clear favorites in the first round of a tournament, which you do in sports, by the way, look at the NHL, NBA, playoffs, et cetera, this is a plausible bracket that you could have come up with. I wouldn't necessarily say that G2 was like 7th or 8th best team in this tournament when, you know, the NA teams exist, but you could make that argument if you think that Cloud9 deserves to be 6th seed from winning NA and G2, you know, qualified ending 4th place in LEC. I think you could make a compelling argument that puts them in 7th or 8th place and therefore in the position to face Gen G in the first round. Same thing with Golden Guardians, runner-up in LCS. Seems like they could be a 7th or 8th place team to face JDG, who could be faced like, you know, seeded 1st or 2nd. So this is all to say that what fans are really angry about, if we get it to its core, is that they don't have the Western matchups and a team like a close match that could result in a team advancing to the winners bracket finals. But the next question is, what happens in those winners bracket finals? Well, one of the Asian teams comes and just bops the winner of that match. And then we get a shitty upper semi. So you want an upset, but it doesn't actually make sense if you are testing for who is the best team in this tournament when the answer is definitively that these 4 teams should be the favorites. They should be advancing into the next round of the playoffs. And why people are mad is because they assume all these teams are going to lose, which is fair because each of these matchups on paper is ludicrously one-sided. Like, I don't even think it's close. In a normal tournament, you would say it's probable that one of the underdogs will win.
Like you said, the C9 one would be the closest here.
Yeah, 1 out of 4 in a normal tournament. 1 out of 4
totally
of
the,
you know, there's probably an upset in 1 out of the 4 games. It seems really unlikely that there is going to be an upset in any of these matches.
Yes,
which is unusual for a tournament. But that's also because Riot insists on not bringing the best teams in the world to these tournaments. Like, there's not a universe where most of these teams are better than KT.
Oh, there's another thing, Monty. If this was CSGO and you had the same format, then think about it, right? You would have like 4 Korean teams, 4 or 5 LPL teams. So as a result, you wouldn't even care about this topic. You just go, I can't wait for this double elim bracket. See however fuck you want. It's going to be amazing, wouldn't it? It's just another Western fucking centric take.
It boils down to literally this, Thorin. Mad cause bad. You're mad at the bracket draw because the teams are bad and they don't. If we're being real, they don't deserve to be here over most of the other LPL and LCK teams who could be here. So we have a garbage bracket, unfortunately, but in some ways it's very good because you want to see these teams moving on to the upper bracket. So
also, can you 2 guys get together and like figure out your takes consistently? Because technically, Corby isn't even in the same camp as Azale. Because we all know if the 2 NA teams lose, then it's impossible for both NA teams to come last place in the bracket. So if anything, Azale will be going, "Hey, NA came fucking 5th to 6th at the MSI, bitch. What up? Where's G2 at?" If they like lose their match to Mad Lions, and we're like, "Come on, bro, give me a break, will you?"
Yeah, I mean, like, also if BLG goes into the losers bracket, there's a world where we could see an upset of BLG in the losers bracket.
Yeah,
like,
why not?
There have been real weaknesses to BLG. I don't think they're enough to have a Western team beat them, but maybe.
I mean, if I had to pick one, I actually think like Mad Lions could be spicy for them, mate. Elyoya and Niski could get busy with fucking BLG. I think that would be an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to get through quite a few opponents in order to do that, so I just don't think it's likely to occur. But
I'm just saying if I could draw the bracket like that, you know.
Yeah. Look, I think BLG could lose to a Western team. I think that is a possibility. Do I think that is a likely possibility? No, but I do think it's more likely than JDG T1 or Gen G losing to a Western team.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.